Welcome back to Cooking with Knob. Today's recipe is a little more time consuming, but certainly worth it. Aliter Betas Elixas, essentially pickled beets, comes from the Roman recipe collection attributed to Apicius. Yes, Roman recipes in theory are before our time. However, this collection of recipes was copied and later printed multiple times and still in use in the Middle Ages and even into the Renaissance. So our medieval brethren were enjoying many of these recipes. As usual, the link to the recipe in the original language will be in the description below, as well as a modern interpretation of the recipe with measurements. Remember, we are using metric at Knob since most of the world is on the metric system. Of course, you can always convert into imperial if that is easier for you. When we think of pickled foods today in the West, we imagine glass jars with pickled cucumbers or some other vegetables such as radishes. If we think back 100 years, we may imagine a giant wooden barrel in a general store filled with pickles swimming in brine. People do not often picture these methods of storage in regards to the Middle Ages. Still, pickling is thousands of years old. So how did our predecessors do it? In ancient days, pickling was often done by marinating vegetables in a brine solution for a few days, then placing the pickles in a clay pot with the same brine and sealing the pots with wax. This was still practiced in some remote regions in the Middle Ages. This method, as well as sealing the pickles in wooden barrels, was possible. For this recipe, of course, we have some beets. Now, most people today are familiar with red beets. Golden beets were popular for centuries, but eventually were surpassed by the red beets. The flavor is generally the same, but at least for me, the big advantage is when cutting. These beets do not bleed a red color on your hands. For this alone, I prefer golden beets. Of course, if you want to use red beets or that is all you're able to find near you, it is perfectly fine to use red beets. Again, for me, it's just a preference because I don't like dyeing my fingers. We also have some bay leaves, whole cloves, black peppercorns, mustard seed, onion, sugar, water, vinegar, and salt. Now, this is very similar to the cucumber pickle spices that I use for modern recipes. How much of the spices you use really depends on how strongly you want your beets to taste. We tend to like our foods a little stronger and are using a fair amount. Also, we normally would not make a single jar of pickles nor pickled beets. If you're going to get everything out, it makes sense, since the whole process is a little tedious, it does make sense to process a larger batch. Also, then you have more to eat over the winter months. Personally, I do not have any clay pots to pickle my beets in, so I'm going to use a modern Vec jar with a rubber ring. If you're from Europe or live in Europe, then these are very familiar to you. Maybe not for canning, but you've definitely at least seen them for decoration or for putting cookies in as a present for somebody, whatever. These are the canning jars of Europe, or at least Western Europe. Now, for our American viewers, your standard ball jars are essentially the same with just a slightly different style of sealing. Both are perfectly fine to use. Again, I'm in Europe, I'm using Vec jars. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do, of course, is we're going to slice our beets and the onion and fill our jars. And the beets originally came from the Middle East, where they were first domesticated. They traveled through the ancient world, eaten by Egyptians, and then moved to Europe via Greece and Rome, which is where we're getting this recipe from. Initially, though, they were grown actually as greens. If you grow your own or you buy organic beets with the leaves still attached, you can cook these up. This is edible. They're actually very nutritious, and rabbits like them as a treat as well. Eating the roots, however, as we do now, occurred closer to the Roman era. In the Middle Ages, like with many other foods, beetroots were used as a natural treatment for various ailments. It was often used to take care of problems with digestion and the blood. Platina, whose recipes we have covered in other episodes, suggested eating beetroot to counter garlic breath.
At this point, it is important to know that normally the cutting is done by Franciscus.
Yeah, this is not Himmeltrude's speciality. So as you go ahead and cut, especially to make room on the cutting board, you can go ahead and add these to the jar. Now don't worry if you pack the jar a little bit, you need to leave a little bit of headspace for the jar to close, but otherwise if you pack it nicely, then as these pickle, they'll start to soften and the filling will shift. And if you look, I mean, this is a beautiful color inside. Nice, beautiful yellow color with the white rings. I really like that. It looks very nice. Another thing to keep in mind is when beets are in season. Of course, with globalization and easy transport of various produce, even if beets are not in season in your region, you can order them. Still, if you prefer fresher produce from your region, they are a cooler season food. In Central Europe, this means they are usually available in the autumn and winter. Personally, I rather like eating various foods more seasonally, as it gives me a chance to look forward to various fruits and vegetables throughout the year and not get tired of eating the same foods all year long. If you grow your own beets, you can keep them for a few months if packed in sand and placed in a cool, dry area. Do not pre-wash your vegetables, as this helps them deteriorate quicker. As for the onion, I tend to prefer to cut that into wedges because the layers do fall apart. We're using black peppercorns for this recipe. The pepper usually found in stores today are either black, white, red, or green. All four colors are actually the same seed from the same plant. The difference comes from when they're harvested and how they're processed. The black peppercorns are the hottest and also the most common in Western cuisine. They're actually unripe. These are not already ripened. But after they're picked, they're dried, which then they turn black. In the Middle Ages, it was very popular to attribute different characteristics to various foods and spices. According to the 12th century abbess Hildegard von Bingen, in her book Physica, peppers are very hot and dry. Now, normally pepper is not good for the body, according to her, and can cause pleurisy. Pleurisy is when two layers of tissue become inflamed around your lungs and rub against each other. Today we know that this is not caused so much by foods, but more by diseases like tuberculosis or injuries like broken ribs. So no, pepper will not cause pleurisy. You're more than welcome to have plenty of it in your beets. Personally, I only find eating too much pepper causes the tongue to tingle, and this is easily cured by a sip of milk. Okay. So actually I ended up taking some beets out of the jar because it's a little bit much and we still need to be able to fit the onions. Alright, let's start to separate this a little bit. Oops. Ah, they don't want to join the beets, it seems. Okay. So this is what, about 6-7 beets that I have here, and I easily have 3 jars worth for pickling. This is plenty. This is lovely. So I'm gonna shake this up a little bit. It's not really distributing it, but that's fine. This will shift a little bit when there's some fluid in there. All right, now what we can do is we've got our spices, our peppercorn, our mustard seed, our bay leaves, and our cloves. Okay, all of this can go directly into the vec jar or your ball jar. So really just go ahead and pop those on in. These are going to add extra flavor for your beets. Again, do not worry if all of your spices seem to congregate to one area. As you add liquid, then they'll get mixed around a little bit, so it's not such a big deal. And this is going to be sitting for a while, so the flavor will distribute. Oops. Okay, so now we have to cook up the brine. This is where the other ingredients come into play. So we had water. I've already pre-measured these, but again, the amounts will be in the recipe below, and if you scale up or scale down the recipe, just adjust everything accordingly. We have vinegar, not balsamic, just plain white vinegar. We have sugar. And we have salt. Because brine would not be a brine without lots of salt in it. So, have this on maximum because we want to get this very hot very quickly. You basically want the salt and the sugar to dissolve in the water and the vinegar mixture. This is actually a pretty basic recipe, nothing too complex. And if you notice, meanwhile, I have on the other burner, I have a giant pot and it's filled with water, and I need this to boil because we're going to use this in a bit to can the beets in the jar. Okay, the water is starting to get cloudy, so I'm hoping that means the salt and sugar are distributing. We'll give it a few more minutes because it's still very cold. All right, so now this is getting there. The water is getting a lot clearer. I can see a few granules of sugar and salt still, but it's pretty much there. I mean, you can see there's steam coming up from both pots. So this does take a little bit. No matter what source you're using, it just takes a while for water to boil. So now one thing you noticed is we did put sugar in. This conception that sugar was not available in Europe in the Middle Ages is actually quite false. Sugar originally started in the Middle East and made its way up through trade to Europe. It did not only come from the Americas. In fact, a lot of the sugarcane grown in the Americas were brought over from other regions. India already had sugarcane. Middle Eastern countries had sugarcane. So yes, you can use sugar. It's not honey. They have that, of course, too, but if you want to be historically accurate, you're not stuck with only honey. Sugar was available. It was used as a medicine very often, or an ingredient. Okay, that looks very clear. Sorry, don't breathe in the vinegar smoke. All right, so after the brine is prepared, we can go ahead and pour that into the jar. Now, you want to give yourself, again, a little bit of headroom. It doesn't matter if you're doing the Vec jar method, if you're doing the ball jar method. No matter what, you always give yourself a couple centimeters or about an inch of headroom. Let's see, okay, that should be about good. Put this down. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Vec jars, because you're in America but you're interested, I can show you the method. So, very simple. We have a standalone jar lid. It does not already have the rubber integrated like the ball lids. You go ahead and you set the rubber ring around. You don't want it to sit on the inner portion of the lid. You want it to be flush with the outer ring. Oops, bay leaf is coming up. All right. Go ahead and set it on the jar. Make sure that everything is secure. Again, you don't want it extending too far out. You don't want it curled up because then this will not seal properly. And I hear one of Knob's mascots calling to us at the moment. Hang on, let's see. I believe this is our Salem. Hey, this is Salem. He's one of our mascots. He's the cuddly one. Hey, you. Here's the baby. He's all wet. He's been playing outside. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have muddy dress because of you, buddy. Do you want to go inside? Did you give me my nose boop yet today? No? No? Okay, not yet. I think he wants to eat first. Okay, so before we're interrupted. Now, because these do not screw on like ball jar lids, you actually use clips. I tend to use 3 evenly placed, approximately. They hook over the lid and snap onto the jar. There we go, that's one. Get one over here. Oops. Two. And 3. So now the jar is securely covered with the lid. And just like the American ball jars, it goes in the pot, it boils. Give it about 15 to 20 minutes, at which point, either method you use, the lid should be sealed. For those of you who do make your own cucumber pickles, like the spices, this process is essentially the same. After the jars are completely cooled, we can remove the clips, kind of like the ball jars, except on those you unscrew the screw ring, as the sealed lid will stay in place after boiling. Vec jars also stack very nicely. Reading online, I have seen some people state that these jars are not safe to use and they are not allowed in America. This is false. This is really false. Europeans primarily use these types of jars and have done so for approximately 100 years now. They also do not pressure can much over here. Most canning is strictly boiling. So as far as these jars' legality in America, they are legal and can be found. Since they are not as popular, they often need to be ordered and are more expensive than ball jars. The same goes in reverse here in Europe. Ball jars and their lids are difficult to find here and usually need to be ordered and are more expensive. Both are valid containers, are equally safe and efficient, just a different style. So now it is ready. We can go ahead and take this out. I'll use this as a little pot holder. You can turn off the burner first. Good. Ooh, there's water splashing, not good. Alright, let's get this. It's being a little fiddly. It kind of shifted over to the side and now I want to pop a ring. Alright, so a little bit of water caught on the lid, so I'm just tilting that. And here we go, and we'll set it aside for a moment. Here's where the time comes into play. Generally, pickled foods are not ready to be eaten right away, and even if they are, they tend to taste a lot stronger after at least 6 weeks. So, we will go ahead and set our jar down. We will patiently wait until our pickled beets are ready, and Franciscus will keep an eye out for us. No, not that long. It has been long enough. Personally, I really like the sound of air escaping when I first open a Vec jar. Just pull gently at the tab on the rubber ring and you can hear a slight hiss. This means the seal is good. Now, let's taste our medieval pickled beets. Okay. Now they've definitely lost color over the months, but that's okay. Pickles do that too, so let's see. Oh, that's really good. And very vinegary. Franciscus, you've been waiting so incredibly patiently, but now, let's see, get you a nice yummy Gilda beet, nice yummy yellow beet.
Wonderful. Very sweet. I like it. Very well.
So what did you really like about it?
Well, I really like the sweet flavor, which is unusual because for us in Germany, pickled fruit is usually very vinegary, so not sweet at all, but I really liked it.
Okay, yeah, I tasted a lot of the cloves, and then there was a bit of a bite, and I'm wondering if that's maybe the black pepper or the mustard seed.
I think the mustard seed is it?
Yeah, that would make some sense. But I like it, and the beets, yeah, like you said, they make it very sweet and it's very tasty.
Yeah, I want more.
Okay, one more bite.
One more bite.
Alright. Oh, big one. Well, you have the bigger mouth of the two of us, so it's all good. Oh, hang on. Otherwise you'll bite into black pepper. Oh, yeah. It's so good. I think we have a winner. Have you tried this recipe? And if you did you try it with red beets? How long did you wait until you dug into yours? And did too much pepper destroy your humors? Be sure to check out our other clips. Keep in mind we have our beloved comedy skits, we have other cooking clips, and we're working on some educational topics. If there's anything that you would like us to cover, please let us know. And be sure to keep notified of any new episodes that come out by clicking on the subscribe button. And if you liked this video, show it with a like. Oh heck, I'm just gonna eat another one.